16. Candidates will be allowed to campaign from June 22 until July 12, according to the election calendar. On the interview segment this week, I sit down with the EU ambassador to Kenya to find out what is the role of EU in the country. Thank you so much for making time for us on World Report. Just for the audience to understand, what are the key priorities between the European Union and Kenya currently?
The EU has had a very long-standing relationship with Kenya for many, many years. And when we started, we were more focusing on development cooperation, so projects, programs. And over the years, we have developed a very strong relationship, which is comprehensive. So developing very much the political cooperation between the EU and Kenya, our trade and investment links. So now we have a very strategic relationship with Kenya, which is going from strength to strength. So last December, we just signed a trade agreement, EU-Kenya trade agreement for free access to our respective markets. That is a big milestone and maybe a trendsetter also in Africa. And we had started a strategic dialogue between EU and Kenya. So Kenya, in many ways, has now a privileged relationship with the EU. And we have so many member states here, 19. And they all have VIPs coming. So we had so many ministers, presidents, prime ministers coming. The president was, President Ruto was in Brussels last year, and he was in Strasbourg visiting the European Parliament. The president of the European Commission, which is the highest authority in the EU, was twice in Kenya last year. What does that say? So I think we have never had better and more comprehensive ties.
Are there specific initiatives, development initiatives that you're supporting in Kenya at the moment?
We're supporting many, especially in greening and digitization, but we are also increasingly supporting Kenya as a regional and global security actor. So the EU is very interested in strengthening Kenya's role to help bring peace into the region. So we very much appreciated what Kenya did to help Ethiopia, to try to help Sudan, South Sudan, DRC, the Nairobi process. And also you have seen that Kenya had a very successful role in the Security Council. And so the EU very much appreciated that and supported Kenya. And now Kenya wants to help Haiti getting back on its feet. So the importance of Kenya as a political and security actor in the world is very important for us, and we very much support that. But also on global governance, for example, on climate change. The EU very much supported the role that the President of this Republic has taken on climate change. And in recognition of that, we are now negotiating a green partnership with Kenya to help Kenya in that space also nationally in its territory, but also in its role to help shape global responses. Also, for example, on the reform of the multilateral development banks to bring green financing in and to the world. So we're establishing a group of friends with Kenya on this. But more to what we do in Kenya concretely, we are very much in the space of gender equality as well, because we are convinced that gender equality is strengthening democracy. If there are disadvantaged parts of the population cannot develop, So this is true for specific social groups, but also for geographic locations. So to reduce inequalities is key for any country to move to upper middle income status. So that is why we are so firmly believing in gender equality. And one of the key issues that hampered gender equality in Kenya is female genital mutilation. So for International Women's Day this year, we decided to go to Elgeyo Marakwet, where you had a very strong cutting season last December. And there was a tragic incident of the killing of a policeman who tried to protect girls from being cut. He was killed, and when I was there now for International Women's Day, I met also 2 priests who were injured in that process, who tried to shield the girls and protect the girls, and the mob was just overrunning them. So we talked with the governor and the authorities in Elgeyo Marakwet, and we are very persuaded that there are many forces in the county that want to help to protect the girls. Because now we have the new school holidays, the Easter holidays. This is the new cutting season. And what happens is that thousands of girls will never return to school. Once they're cut, they're being married off in most cases, and that takes them, that ends their career, let's say. So we want that girls have choices. So our campaign for International Women's Day was education, not mutilation. And we have seen globally that education is the best tool for women empowerment. So if you can keep girls in school, they can fend for themselves. They do realize what is good for them. They can make their own decisions. They can get their own money, so they have economic and social independence that will help them also to be better contributors to the society. So we partnered in Elgeyo Marakwet with Brighter Society Initiative by Saddam Hussein. She is an FGM survivor, Muslim FGM survivor. And she made it her life goal to help other girls not to suffer what she has gone through. And we are now starting a new project to help FGM frontline activists, because we are convinced that people do the cut because they want to do good. They don't want to harm the girl. They think that this is what opens life to them as a rite of passage, that they can get married, they are recognized as proper women. So to overcome that sort of culture that maybe is based on overcome beliefs and traditions and false beliefs, we are also working with men. And you know, when you see men, because we also did films on FGM, where you're being explained what is actually happening and what this is doing to girls. The guys don't know that a girl is tied with the legs and has to stay there for 4 weeks to heal, that many have lifelong hurt. They have many complications when they give birth and so on. When the guys and elders and religious leaders, when they see those movies, many are crying. They're saying, we had no idea this is what it is. We thought it was something good. So We're working in this space not because only of FGM. We are convinced that this helps all the community. It helps women, and in extension, it helps the families and the men as well. And it helps the country. So the rates have gone down, thank God, in Kenya. But it's illegal. But it's still widely practiced. And there's actually FGM tourism coming into Kenya every year.
FGM tourism?
Yeah.
Interesting term.
Yeah, it's very sad. But there are families coming in with their girls. They have them cut.
Yeah, I totally know, because I come from such a community where they do that sometimes. But now I want to understand from a perspective of there are actually women who are really advocating for this. For the women who are advocating for the FGM to happen, what are you doing? Or like, are you also training them any sort of activism when it comes to only those specific women? What are you doing in that case?
I mean, this is the work of the frontline activists, because if I come and tell those women, you shouldn't do this, this is wrong, it will not be accepted. So you have to talk to people who are like you, and then it's much easier. You find the right words, you speak the language, you understand the culture, and then by explaining, you can help the women, the mothers, or the fathers and the families understand that this may be not the best interest. And only if that conviction is holding ground through education, community education, also religious leaders who can, because many are afraid that they're violating a taboo. But also what has helped is that we helped create alternative rites of passage, because we have seen that this is also a social element. It's an element for the community to rejoice, sing, dance, have fun. The girls many girls want it because the others do it and they want to be part of it, and they are also being told they're not clean or good girls if they're not being cut. So the school teachers, school education, sensitization, all of this plays a role. And what is very important is that the EU is not seen as trying to impose something. We are helping those who want to make the difference in the country. And after all, it's a law. It's the will, the national will of the country enshrined in a law. But the killing of the police person is showing that this is not universally accepted by the society yet. That's why it's so important to work with the activists, because I am absolutely 100% convinced that nobody wants to harm anybody else, and nobody wants to harm the girls. They do it out of conviction that they do something good. And the other thing we do is, of course, working with the cutters. In many countries in the world where FGM is prevalent, we had very good results working with the cutters in terms of giving them alternative livelihoods.
Right. Very interesting. My final question then would be, what would you like to see as the EU impact in Kenya? Even if your term ends, what would you like to see?
What I would like to see is that Kenya is in a better space, and I think you're moving very fast into better spaces as a nation. But I would like to see that the EU made a small contribution to it by empowering at certain critical moments both in the government space, helping on critical reforms, for example, on justice sector reform. This is our largest investment in whole sub-Saharan Africa on justice. We had great results on access of vulnerable groups to justice. The digitization, we have helped to digitize all the land registries in all the land registry in Kenya. So that helps to give certainty to land titles. We empower women and youth to go into agro-business, but agro-business that makes actually money. We see that Kenya has this incredible ambition to go 100% renewable. So we're helping in that space. So if I can see that when I leave this country, we're at 100% renewables, or the FGM rates have gone below 10, there are many indicators that will show me that we have contributed to something that is happening. So that would be my great ambition.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your time. On that note, we wrap up this week's World Report. Remember, if you have any comments or queries, you can reach me on my social media handle at Noor Fatia. Thank you for watching.